Steph Hinds, welcome to the Business Advisory Show.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming along. And it was a nice little interesting little backstory to your preparation for your panel talk. Well done.
Always good for the preparation.
Yeah, and tell me about your view. What does business advisory mean to you?
So I have a view that business advisory is multifaceted. So for us, we started advising clients on the simple parts of their numbers 10 years ago, and then we evolved to advising them on business strategies, and I put together a program called L-Platers, and we run clients through understanding foundations and fundamentals of business, understanding the sales process, understanding cash flow, and understanding all of those bits and pieces. And since then, advisory for me has tended to evolve now into a lot more software advisory. So as we were doing the numbers component and the cash flow, we came across this massive issue in that we didn't have enough really good data. And so we could go so far, and then you would hit a brick wall in terms of that analysis because we didn't have enough data. And so for us, advisory now is more software advisory instead of just looking at the accounting component of that. And that stems from implementing simple things like a point of sale system or inventory systems for clients, all the way through to literally their whole back end processes, their G Suite stuff, all the way through to things like HubSpot now, which is getting quite exciting. And ultimately, it's all for us, let's be honest. It's all for being able to have that data and be able to analyse it so that we can show the clients tweaking one or two small things makes an enormous difference to their business at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it's fabulous to hear you talk about your own journey, because I think that people like you, that to accountants and bookkeepers that don't know you well, might see you as a bit of a demigod, and can they do the stuff that you're doing? But if we talk about little steps first, looking back, how difficult really has the journey been?
In all honesty, not very difficult, because we have taken one small little step at a time. I remember our first apparent advisory meeting. I was terrible, right? I think everybody is in their first appointment when they're trying to actually get a client to change. But it really is about backing yourself and saying, what clients need to do, what their numbers are telling you, what they need to change. And so just starting with one small thing and then moving on to the next one. And I talk to so many people who are like, well, how do I get started? And for me, it's just a simple conversation, nothing more, because if you can have that simple conversation, it's easy then to add to it. And the biggest learning that I probably had was I went in all guns blazing and I thought clients should change 20 things literally off the bat because that's what they needed to do. This is how naive I was. And the thing that you realise is clients are just after one thing to improve on, and if you can do that one thing, the 20 things might take 3 or 4 years, and that's completely fine as long as they're doing those incremental improvements. So for me, it's just jump in, just give things a whirl. Sure, you're not going to be fantastic. You don't have to be fantastic because you're already knowing a lot more about clients' businesses than what they do.
Yeah, and the way I see it is it's not about, you're not saying milk the client and drip feed stuff to charge them more money over years. That's a coaching franchise that we won't name. But anyway, no, what we're talking about is actually at their pace. Right?
Correct. Yeah. And some clients move much faster because they're ready to, and other clients move really slow. So when I designed L-Platers, I thought it was a 12-month kind of program where they would move through certain things over the course of 12 months. And I have a builder who's methodical and is really wanting to learn as much as he possibly can about his business. And he's literally been doing L-Platers for 3 years, but absolutely loves it and is still getting enormous value out of it because he can move through and change things, ask questions, look at what's happening, and he feels comfortable. Whereas I've had people, speed through and are like, quick, what's next? What do I get to do next? And I think we all need to understand that each client is a little bit different, so there's never going to be a cookie cutter way to deal with them either.
Yeah. And I've got an accountant in our foundation program for 3 years running. And Ken, you're one of my favourites, not because he's 3 years on the same product, because he buys me coffee. It's Sydney month. Yeah, I love going to Sydney and Ken buys me coffee. What's your most important lesson that you've learned as a business owner?
To never sit still. As a business owner, if I want to be the best owner that I can be, building the business that suits me, not everybody else, then you can't actually sit still. You need to constantly learn, you need to be hungry to learn, you need to be looking at what's actually happening in the marketplace in the areas that you want to grow in and at the areas that you want to be able to deliver services and advice in. And if you sit still, it becomes quite boring, but it also becomes quite staid, and it's very easy in this fast-paced environment for people to take over. So for me, I have one rule that I live life by, and it's to just constantly keep learning.
Yeah, wonderful. I totally agree with that. In terms of if you had your time over, I've got thousands of things that I'd do differently. Is there one or two things that pop into your head that if you had your time over, you could rewrite the script, you'd do it differently?
It would be really defining in more detail our ideal client. So when we were 18 months in, we actually got to a pretty good space in terms of the types of industries that we wanted to deal with, but we didn't deep dive into the type of person that we wanted to work with. And in what we do, it's all about the people. It's all about the business owner. It's all about their team. It's all about our team. And so if I had my time over again, I'd get really, really refined in the type of people that we want to deal with. We have now. It's much better as a business, and I think you have to learn those things along the way, but if I had a magic wand, I'd definitely do that.
But I guarantee you a lot of our accountants and bookkeepers out there are going to miss what you just said, the poetry and the gold nuggets. How much better is it when you actually focus on target, recruit, promote and attract your ideal client?
It's amazing because you then get a lot more excitement out of dealing with people that you want to deal with. And we actually did the exercise with a bunch of our team, and so they then get quite excited about who they're working with as well, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's great advice. Steph, thanks for coming on the show today. It's been terrific.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome.